Minnesota 27, Packers 25. Vikings move to 14-2. Packers fall to 11-5 and potentially the 7 seed. They could be as low as a 7. Vikings 14-2, looking at a showdown with the Detroit Lions. Sunday Night Football next week. Winner gets to take a week off. Winner gets the bye in the NFC. The most regular season wins in a matchup in NFL history. 14-win Vikings.
Well, that's also a 17-game schedule stat. That doesn't count. We've got an extra game involved for everybody.
Mostly in timing. So what are the Lions? They 13-2 at the moment.
Yeah, 13-2 versus 14-2.
They have 14-2 Vikings. Another impressive Sam Darnold game. Vikings, they got up early, man. They it wasn't dominant early on by Minnesota. It was back and forth, both teams. Minnesota gets up 13-3 at the half. I want to talk about that in a minute. But they were up 20-3 at one point. Packers creep back into it and end up losing by 2 in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't absolutely dominant by Minnesota early, but they were the better team and put points on the board and could have put up more. I mean, Keyshawn Nixon saves a touchdown on that sort of underthrown Darnold deep shot to Jordan Addison, I think it was, where Addison maybe could have come down with it anyway. Darnold should have put it out there earlier.
Addison had a couple steps on him.
Yeah, like it needed a lot to not be a touchdown, was the point. The forced fumble on Josh Jacobs early, like Green Bay did this thing, which they tend to do. It's kind of interesting, actually, in this world of, analytics and taking the edges, et cetera. The Packers take the ball a lot when they win the toss, which is usually one of those just sort of standard, the numbers just say you're better deferring, right? You're better off doing that almost, period.
I don't even know if the numbers say it. I just always want my extra possession in the second half.
Pretty sure the numbers say that as one of those just sort of decided declarative, this is just a thing you should do. Whereas the Packers and LaFleur like taking the ball, establishing, we're going to march down there, we're going to put up points, and suddenly you're behind the game script, you're in trouble. Instead, this time, they started moving the ball, and then Minnesota forced a fumble on Josh Jacobs and turned it over almost immediately. So now you're like, your statement, to begin the game just backfired completely, and you gave up a possession and lost the ball in the process.
Thanks to Jerry Tillery.
Yes. So then Minnesota's, putting points up. They're looking good. They're looking like they're sort of easing away with this. I guess the rot started with a Darnold mistake, like a forced play that ends up as an interception, a pretty decent return by Ballantyne, which they dodged a bullet on. Remember, he fumbles that at the end, and Carl Brooks falls on it and keeps the ball. They score a touchdown a couple plays later, and suddenly we're kind of 10-point game again. But then Minnesota answers the next drive, gets their touchdown back. But the same thing, the Vikings have done this a lot this season. They're up 17 points with 7 minutes left in the game. That's basically done. And again, it became a razor-thin game. The Vikings have let these late leads slip multiple times this year.
Vikings fans think you hate the Vikings. Do you want to?
I don't hate them, but I think they have had a very notable run this season of not putting teams away, where they've been comfortably the better side and have let them back into it. It's not the same as a couple of years ago, where they were winning one-score games in a way that felt unsustainable and disproportionate.
They're much better. Just let me start with it. They're much better than they were.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
2020.
It's not like it was a couple of years ago, where the streak of one-score wins they had felt misrepresentative of what the team was that year. It felt like that was skewing in a high end of variance that was flattering them, right? This is not the same. But the fact that they are in these one-score games when it should be a 2 or 3 score game in their favor is not a good thing. Like that streak we showed before of the point differential by quarter, the fact that they're finding a way of letting teams back into these games is not good.
I'm of the mind. I think the analyst in me thinks a lot of that is just noise. Like, I think the Vikings are very good. I think they're one of the best teams in football. Let me preface all this. I don't think they should be beating everybody 34-10.
Neither do I. But once you've put yourself in a position where you're 17 points up repeatedly, you shouldn't be going to overtime or having it as a one.
Balances back the other way. I am impressed. I mean, they did have the bounce back. I've highlighted this all year. Darnold and the Vikings have had a lot of those good bounce back drives. Like when it was 20-3. Packers score. I think it was after Darnold's interception. They score their first touchdown to go to 20-10. The Vikings come right back. Darnold this year, and we'll talk plenty of Darnold in a minute here. Darnold this year has had, a red zone mistake here and there, an interception, whatever it is. He continues to bounce back from mistakes. I love that, right? And that is one of those things, the former NFL quarterbacks love that. They know you can't be perfect, but when you face adversity or when you make a mistake, how well do you bounce back from that? Darnold and the Vikings have done that really well. So they came back after giving up the first touchdown. They come back with a touchdown drive to go up 27-10. Yes, the Packers crept back into it. They score a touchdown. They do the early go for two, which that was when Greg Olsen may have been subtweeting his former broadcast partner, Kevin Burkhardt, and Tom Brady, who had no idea why the Packers were going for two to make it a 9-point game when the analytics say, hey, go for two early. You increase your win probability. If you get to that point when you're down two instead of being down three, game-winning field goal opportunity, the Packers were almost in that situation. So the Packers crept back into it late, but still impressed with how the Vikings handled that first, attack by the Packers trying to come back in the game.
Yeah, no, they definitely bounced back, particularly that drive where Darnold threw the interception, the big return, they give up a touchdown there. That definitely could have started the rot, but the Vikings' next drive, they answered extremely well. And that was definitely a really good answer. And then obviously right after everything, it kind of collapsed and they really needed a drive just to stay alive as opposed to giving Green Bay another chance. It's a 2-point game now. You need a couple first downs to ice the game. If you have to kick it away, now maybe you do screw it up and lose the game complete. Then they made a couple of big plays. Darnold hits Justin Jefferson with an amazing pass on that over route, that drag route across the middle. Perfect ball location, perfect play by Jefferson, really tight coverage. Could have been called, I think, pass interference a couple of times during that. Got most of the first down, and then the first down to Cam Akers the next play on the sort of busted coverage by the Packers. And Cam Akers almost screwed that up. Thought for a second he was going to fall and not actually catch the pass
Darnold
that was dropping by his feet.
Babied it, right?
Yeah,
Akers
it was falling short of him, but
he
sort of turned all the way and was falling backwards as he tried to catch it. It looked for a second like he was screwing that up.
So that drive you're describing, and when teams screw this up, it stands out. When they execute it, sometimes we don't always highlight it enough. The Vikings are up 2 with 2:18 left, and the Packers have, 2 timeouts? You need a first down here, multiple first downs. And Brady kept saying, you got to get your best guys involved. And they go bootleg, get the ball to C.J. Ham in the flat for 13. Boom, first down. Still need one more first down. And this is where teams, a lot of times, they go run, punt, and give other teams opportunities. But that second down play, Akers loses 1 yard on the first down carry after the 2-minute warning. Darnold hits Justin Jefferson on that 9 yards on 2nd and 11. That was just a massive play. And then they, get the pass to Akers to convert the 3rd and 2 to seal the game. That was huge by Minnesota. Again, teams screw that up a lot, and before you know it, it's wow, the Packers are driving for a game-winning field goal opportunity here, and then credit Darnold and the Vikings for not letting them do it. That second down pass to Jefferson into that tight window, Darnold is absolutely fearless when making those throws, even with the game on the line. Yeah,
critically on that drive, Minnesota was willing to pass the ball. A lot of times you see teams in that situation, again, that run kick, right? We're not gonna risk stopping the clock. We're gonna try and pick up the first down by just running the ball. The Vikings came out and they were like, no, we need the first down. Time is kind of irrelevant. We need to end the game, so we need to pass the ball. There aren't that many teams that are happy to do that.
Did you see, I think it was maybe Nate Tice posted a screenshot of a text message. He said, this is from a McVay disciple. Right before the C.J. Ham play, he goes, first down, he goes, KOC is going to be aggressive. First play bootleg. And that's what they ran. I want to circle back to Darnold in a minute here. The sequence at the end of the half ended up being huge. The reason why I said it wasn't dominant early, it was a back and forth defensive battle the first, quarter and a half, basically. And it's 10-3 Minnesota. They get a field goal. So it's just 10-3 going into the half. Minnesota's driving. They try a 55-yard field goal and miss. And then, but offsides is called on the great Edgerrin Cooper, who's outstanding overall.
4 tackles for loss, I think.
Yeah, dude is an absolute. I mean, he might be all over the place in coverage. He's an absolute jackhammer against the run. Love him. But he's called offsides. There's no good view of him being offsides whatsoever. So I don't really know if he was.
There's a top-down camera angle that's come out.
Where his helmet's like this close, or is he legit in the neutral zone?
It doesn't look like anybody is in the neutral zone. Like
So-
he was moving. So that was one where, they're all in the 4-point stance kind of trying to getting ready. And there's like some shuffling, but I don't think anybody got into the neutral zone.
So essentially, they call that. Minnesota missed the field goal. They have another shot at it, hit the 50-yarder. That puts an extra 3 points on right before the half. And obviously, they win by 2. Now, game flow changes and this and that, but that is a massive 3-point swing there just before the half in favor of the Vikings.
No, it was. I mean, it's a big deal, particularly, again, for a kicker. Like, the kicker missed a couple of kicks in the game. Now, one of them was from way down. But not necessarily the most reliable kicker in the game. That was a big difference. I think you're right. Like, it's easy to say it was a 2-point margin of victory and that was a 3-point play. Ergo, that play determined the game. But this was at a time when Minnesota was comfortably in charge, way ahead. Maybe if they don't get that extra 3 points, they don't collapse like a 14-point margin of victory. And in fact, they put another 2 or 3 scores on the board and they do go away. Like, who knows? But yeah, it ended up being a significant differentiator in a game that got that close by the end of it.
And then just to rave about Sam Darnold again. Incredible story. Finishes 33 of 43 for 377, 3 touchdowns. And again, that one interception helped Green Bay get back into the game. That was his only real disastrous mistake, I think, in this one. Got Justin Jefferson involved in the second half. It started slow. They didn't get Jefferson involved early. He didn't have his first catch till the middle of the second quarter. But you just see the difficulty that teams have in stopping this Minnesota passing attack. Jordan Addison had 6 catches for 69 yards and a score. T.J. Hawkinson had 5 catches. Jalen Naylor had that beautiful 31-yard touchdown. Really well designed. You could see coverage going to Jefferson
Gravity.
and Darnold just not forcing it, right? You could see him making those good decisions. Just really impressive patience but aggressiveness all at the same time, I think, from Darnold. That's the part. There was some, as Green Bay was coming back into the game, like Minnesota stays aggressive. Darnold continues to throw the ball down the field, maybe too dangerously at times when you're playing with a lead, and maybe that's part of this whole thing. But I love it, man. They have the horses who are tough to cover, the trio of Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, and then you throw Naylor and his deep speed in there and what they've done in the red zone and with down the field with him. They are so tough to cover. And Darnold, again, fearless is the right word, amnesia after bad plays. I love the way he's played this year, and he stepped up again in this game on a time in a time where Packers this week, Lions next week, playoffs. I mean, there's so much on the line, and Darnold keeps coming through.
That play, the touchdown to Naylor, I think it was a great example of that, the impact that Jefferson can have without catching the ball. Like, that was a perfect example of the kind of gravity of that elite number 1 receiver and what he can do to a secondary, because that's a throw that theoretically shouldn't be there. And then it only is there because the safety on that side is so concerned with Jefferson that he's basically taken himself out of the deep half of the field. And so that's an area that Naylor can then run into and be wide the hell open in the end zone. Jefferson's impacting the game all the time, even if he's not putting up, monster numbers. And that's true for, a lot of these elite top-end number 1 receivers. I think part of what we talked about before, Kevin O'Connell's ability to kind of rewire quarterbacks and, change the way Kirk Cousins played the game. Maybe it's not going to work every time, but like that aggressiveness is helping the Vikings. And I think it's part of why they win a lot of these 1-score games, because he is aggressive and he's going to throw the ball as opposed to run, kick and put the game in Green Bay's hands again. Like, a lot of coaches would have done that, or they'd have run at least 2 times, and then we'd have had a decision about, are we going to pass on 3rd down? Are we going to risk the pass, or are we going to run the ball again? Like, that's the decision they're making, where he's out here going, we're going to pass play 1. We're not going to run the ball. We're going to open with the pass. I think that's a big part of why they win these 1-score games, and maybe it won't work every playoff game, but I think it gives them an edge that doesn't exist for some other coaches.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Connell continues. I tweeted out a couple weeks ago. If you look at the without Kevin O'Connell, Sam Darnold's career clearly rejuvenated. Kirk Cousins winning percentage without Kevin O'Connell. I mean, there's something to him and his play calling. I saw Dan O. I didn't watch Dan O's video, but raving about the game plan and the specific, some of the specifics in there. Can't say enough good things about Kevin O'Connell, and I think regardless of what happens next week, maybe he's the coach of the year, given everything that's happened with the Vikings sitting here at 14-2. I wanted to highlight Darnold's other touchdown too to Addison. I mean, the Naylor one was like good design. You read the safety and you get the ball out there, nice throw. The second one to Addison though, like third read, footwork, pocket movement, pinpoint, just a beautiful throw from Sam Darnold, and continues to do that week after week. We brought this up on the show before. I said, is Sam Darnold the best bridge quarterback of all time? I'm saying that, again, not from like, what is he right now? I'm saying the Vikings signed him, like, what's his contract, $10 million? Yeah. They signed him as a bridge quarterback. Is this the best one-year performance for a guy who was signed as a bridge from Kirk Cousins, old guy, to the rookie, right? They signed him as a hedge just in case going into the draft. People brought up Drew Brees, which might be the guy. Drew Brees bridging the Chargers to Phillip Rivers, right? Because he started the first year after Phillip Rivers.
He wasn't a bridge, though.
But he kind of was. Like, they drafted Phillip Rivers while they still had Drew Brees, and they
they drafted Phillip Rivers because Drew Brees hadn't worked out. Like, Drew Brees was a failed
But then
rookie.
But I'm saying the effectiveness in the bridge quarterback year. John Kitna, by the way, had a really nice bridge quarterback year to Carson Palmer. But I want to bring our friend Matthew Collar on Wednesday to maybe discuss that. But we've also seen this in recent years. Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield as
Baker's
bridge type of quarterbacks, right?
Baker's the other obvious one where he signs for $4 million to bridge presumably to the next guy that wasn't even on the roster yet, and actually it turns out he's the guy. There's no way Drew Brees qualifies as a bridge quarterback. He was just still in the job because they hadn't gotten rid of him yet.
He was still there. We'd have to define bridge quarterback, a guy that was signed to bridge the gap, right? Signed to be a bridge. Just incredible. And again, I'm not diminishing the way Darnold's playing. I'm going and saying the mentality when you brought him in, like
the purpose of him was a bridge.
Kwesi and KOC were like, oh man, we're going to get 40 touchdowns and 14 wins out of Darnold this year. We'll just pay him $10 million for that. They did not expect this.
It is hilarious, though, that the 2022 Carolina Panthers quarterback room has now thrown for 74 touchdowns this season.
It is wild.
None of which are for the Panthers.
It was a fun story at the time because it's two class of 2018 quarterbacks. Baker goes number 1. Darnold goes number 3.
Reunited.
The 2018 quarterback class is now Allen and Lamar, both competing for the MVP, and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold definitely going to the playoffs, potentially winning both of their divisions and balling out.
It's now 4 guys playing really well and Josh Rosen.
Oh, poor Josh Rosen.
Yeah, who's not in the league anymore.
Get Rosen back out here.
Who's in like the Wharton School, I think. He's like a business major.
So
or
he's
something
doing well too.
Right.
Good for Josh.
Well, I mean, who knows? But he's back in college as opposed to playing football.
What if he has a hot tub in his dorm still? Anyway, so impressed by Minnesota. There might be something to what you're saying. Like, their defense was in control early on, and Packers had a short field after the interception, so that's part of it. But yeah, there is, Packers are also a good team, right? Like
but this is twice.
Like it was supposed to be.
It was a
closer game.
Yeah, but it was a repeat of the last game. Like the last game they played, and it was more emphatic the first time. But Minnesota annihilated the Packers the first time they played for most of the game, and then it's such a big lead. Green Bay starts slinging the ball all over the field. They start the comeback. And at some point, the garbage timey comeback actually becomes serious. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really matter if they're putting some points up. We got a big lead. But then at some point, it's like, actually, this is getting kind of uncomfortable now. And they made it really close by the end. This never got that out of control. Like, it wasn't that emphatic. But that's 2 games against Green Bay that's happened. It's 1 game against Chicago where they should have been completely out of sight. That game went to overtime. There's a lot of games now where Minnesota should have won more comfortably than they've won. And, okay, they've won them. Like, that's the bottom line. That's the thing that matters. But the reason you bring this sort of stuff up is once you make the postseason, the bar gets higher, right? That's the whole point when you analyze Buffalo, everything you sort of say about Buffalo is with regards to the postseason and grading on a curve of can you beat Kansas City in January. Same thing with Minnesota. Like, they are now vying for the number 1 seed. The next game against Detroit is a fantastic matchup, should be phenomenal, one of the games of the season based off what's on the line. But this is now the standard. This is where the bar is. Like, can you beat all these teams one after another in the playoffs? And this type of thing, like blowing 17-point leads, almost blowing 17-point leads.
Didn't all the way.
Right. It's not a good thing. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.